Imagine you're a single mother, your world revolving around your sweet, imaginative little boy. During a routine Sunday at the park, he suddenly runs off joyfully shouting, "Daddy!" and throws his arms around the legs of a complete stranger, a handsome, impeccably dressed man who seems as surprised as you are. For you, it's just another day of gentle chaos, until this unexpected encounter with a mysterious billionaire sparks a connection neither of you saw coming. A simple case of mistaken identity at the airport soon reveals a deeper, more fateful mix-up that will bind your lives together forever. What happens when a jaded CEO, haunted by the scent of a woman's perfume, discovers that the owner of the wrong suitcase might just be the right person to heal his heart? But before we dive into this charming story of fate, family, and second chances, please subscribe for more heartwarming tales. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from today? Amelia Brooks checked her watch for the 5th time in as many minutes, the frantic energy of the airport terminal buzzing around her. Her flight had been delayed for 3 agonizing hours, and now she was going to be late getting home. After spending a week in Barbados, her first real vacation in 5 years, all she wanted was to get back to her small apartment in Atlanta, take a hot shower, and sink into the familiar comfort of her own bed. Final boarding call for flight 1972 to Atlanta, a voice announced over the overhead speaker, jolting her back to the present. Amelia grabbed her carry-on bag and hurried towards the gate, joining the last few stragglers shuffling onto the plane. Finding her seat by the window, she stowed her bag and settled in her breath, fogging the small oval window as she watched the ground crew finish loading luggage into the belly of the aircraft. Her week in Barbados had been exactly what she needed. It was a week of sun, sand, and solitude, precious time to think, to heal, and to remember the person she was before her ex-fiancé, Mark, had methodically crushed her confidence and left her questioning her own worth. The trip had been a birthday gift to herself, a declaration of independence paid for with the hard-earned savings from her flower shop, Petal and Stem, which she'd poured her heart and soul into opening 3 years ago. As the plane finally took off, climbing through the clouds, Amelia closed her eyes. She was proud of herself for taking this trip alone. It had been a small act of courage in the grand scheme of things, but for her, it was a monumental step forward. 6 hours later, exhausted and bone-weary but eager to be home, Amelia navigated Atlanta's crowded Hartsfield-Jackson Airport to baggage claim. The carousel was already spinning when she arrived, a seemingly endless parade of bags circling like sharks. She spotted a navy blue suitcase with a familiar scuff mark on the corner, and her heart leaped with relief. She quickly grabbed it, pulling up the handle and heading for the exit, her mind already on the quiet sanctuary of her apartment. In her hurry, she didn't notice that the luggage tag bore a different name. On the other side of the country, Julian Royce settled into the plush leather seat of his private jet. The sprawling Los Angeles skyline disappeared beneath a blanket of clouds as the aircraft climbed to its cruising altitude. His ever-efficient assistant Marcus sat across from him, his eyes glued to the schedule for their 3-day trip to New York. "The board meeting is at 9:00 a.m. tomorrow," Marcus said, his voice a crisp monotone as he swiped through his tablet. "Then lunch with the investors at noon, followed by the marketing presentation at 2:00 p.m. Julian nodded, his face a mask of detached indifference. At 32, he was one of the youngest and most formidable CEOs in the luxury lifestyle industry, having built Royce Enterprises from a small startup into a global brand in just 7 years. His success, however, had come at a steep price. He couldn't remember the last time he'd felt genuinely excited about anything. Work relationships, life in general, everything had become a monotonous series of obligations and meetings. "I'm going to review the quarterly reports," Julian said, his voice flat, as he reached for the navy suitcase at his feet. "Make sure we're not disturbed for the next hour." Marcus nodded and moved to the front of the cabin, leaving Julian alone with his thoughts and his work. He unzipped the suitcase, expecting to find the neatly folded dress shirts and the portfolio of documents he had packed. Instead, he froze. This wasn't his suitcase. Inside, resting on top of a pile of colorful summer dresses and casual clothes that were decidedly not his, was a soft, peach-colored scarf, folded with care. A weathered leather journal with pressed flowers peeking from its pages lay next to a small, elegant glass bottle of perfume. Confused, Julian picked up the perfume bottle. The label was simple, handwritten, jasmine and honey. Without thinking, he removed the delicate glass stopper and took a small sniff. The scent hit him like a physical force. Jasmine, honey, and something else. Something warm and inexplicably real that made his chest tighten in a way he hadn't felt in years. It smelled like late summer evenings, like quiet comfort, like a home he'd never known. He set the bottle down carefully and noticed a small luggage tag on the handle that he'd missed before. "Amelia Brooks," it read, followed by an Atlanta address and phone number. Julian should have been annoyed. He was annoyed. Someone had taken his suitcase, which contained important documents for tomorrow's meetings. And yet, instead of frustration, he felt an unexpected and powerful surge of curiosity. He found himself picking up the journal, his fingers tracing the worn leather cover. He knew he shouldn't open it. These were someone's private thoughts, a window into a stranger's soul. But he couldn't resist flipping gently to a page marked by a pressed Queen Anne's lace. A detailed sketch of a small flower shop filled the page with notes scribbled in neat, elegant handwriting about display cases and cooler placements. Petal and stem expansion plan was written across the top. Underneath the journal was a slightly crumpled photograph. A woman stood on a beach at sunset, her arms outstretched to the sky, her face turned joyfully toward the ocean. Her curly hair blew in the wind, and even though he was looking at her back, Julian could tell she was laughing. He stared at the photo, then at the journal, then back at the perfume. Something shifted inside him, like a door creaking open in a room he'd long since forgotten existed. "Marcus," he called, his voice sharper than usual. His assistant appeared instantly. "Yes, sir. Someone has taken my suitcase by mistake. I need you to contact this woman." He handed Marcus the luggage tag. "Arrange to get my bag back as soon as possible." "Of course, sir. I'll take care of it right away," Marcus said, taking the tag. "Would you like me to notify the airline about the mix-up?" "No," Julian said more forcefully than he intended. "Just contact her directly." After Marcus left, Julian picked up the perfume bottle again, turning it over and over in his hands. He shouldn't care about the woman who owned these things. She was just a stranger who had created an inconvenience. And yet, he uncapped the bottle one more time and breathed in the intoxicating scent of jasmine and honey. Amelia arrived home dragging the heavy suitcase up the stairs to her second-floor apartment. She kicked off her shoes at the door, her body aching with fatigue, and pulled the suitcase into her bedroom. She was too tired to unpack. Tomorrow would be soon enough. Right now, all she craved was a shower and sleep. 3 hours later, she woke up feeling wonderfully refreshed. Stretching, she decided to unpack before heading to her shop to check on things. Her assistant manager had kept the place running, but Amelia was eager to get back to her flowers. She unzipped the suitcase and froze. These were not her clothes. Instead of her worn-in summer dresses and casual vacation wear, the suitcase was filled with meticulously folded men's dress shirts, expensive-looking suits, and a leather portfolio of business documents. "Oh no," she whispered, her hands flying to her mouth as she frantically searched for any identification. She found a business card tucked inside the portfolio's front pocket. Julian Royce, CEO, Royce Enterprises. Amelia's heart sank into her stomach. She'd taken the wrong suitcase. And not just anyone's suitcase, she'd taken the luggage of a CEO. A billionaire, if the name was anything to go by. Panic began to rise in her chest as she reached for her phone to call the airline. But before she could dial, her phone rang, displaying an unknown number. She answered cautiously. "Hello? Is this Amelia Brooks?" a polite professional male voice asked. "Yes, it is. My name is Marcus Chen. I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Julian Royce, CEO of Royce Enterprises. It appears there has been a mix-up with Mr. Royce's luggage at the airport today." Amelia closed her eyes, mortified. "I am so sorry. I just realized it myself. I have the wrong suitcase. I was in such a hurry and they look exactly alike." "No need to apologize, Ms. Brooks. These things happen, but Royce would like to arrange a meeting to exchange the bags as soon as possible." "Of course. I can bring it to the airport right away," she offered, already grabbing her car keys. "That won't be necessary. Mr. Royce will be in Atlanta tomorrow afternoon and would like to meet you at the Four Seasons Hotel downtown at 4:00 p.m., if that's convenient for you." Tomorrow. Amelia had planned to spend the day at her shop catching up after her week away, but she could hardly refuse. 4:00 tomorrow works for me, she said. "Excellent. Mr. Royce appreciates your cooperation." After hanging up, Amelia stared at the expensive suitcase sitting in the middle of her bedroom. Why would this CEO want to meet in person? Couldn't he just send an assistant to pick up the bag? A wave of anxiety washed over her. She hoped he wasn't planning to sue her or something equally horrible. Her journal was in that suitcase, and her favorite scarf, and the perfume her grandmother had given her before she died. The thought of a stranger looking through her most personal belongings made her stomach knot with a mixture of embarrassment and violation. Back on his private jet, Julian pretended to review the new marketing materials Marcus had prepared, but his mind kept drifting back to the contents of the wrong suitcase, to the woman on the beach, her arms outstretched in pure joy, and to the lingering, unforgettable scent of jasmine and honey. "Marcus," he said suddenly, interrupting his assistant's detailed explanation of the presentation. "I need to be in Atlanta tomorrow." Marcus blinked, momentarily thrown. "Atlanta, sir. But the board meeting. Reschedule it. And the investor lunch. We're flying to Atlanta after the marketing presentation." "May I ask why, sir?" Julian hesitated, not entirely sure of the answer himself. "The suitcase situation," he said finally. "I want to handle it personally." Marcus looked surprised, but quickly schooled his features back into a mask of professional efficiency. "Of course, sir. I've already arranged a meeting with Ms. Brooks at the Four Seasons at 4:00 p.m. tomorrow." "Good," Julian said, turning his attention back to the marketing materials. But he wasn't seeing the glossy photos and carefully crafted text. He was seeing pressed flowers and a journal full of dreams. He was remembering what it felt like to be moved by something, by someone. Have you ever had a travel mix-up that led to an unexpected adventure? Share your stories in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more tales of fateful encounters. The next day, Amelia stood nervously in the opulent lobby of the Four Seasons Hotel, Julian Royce's navy suitcase at her side. She had dressed carefully in her most professional outfit, a simple blue dress and a cardigan, but she still felt hopelessly out of place amongst the wealthy guests and polished staff. At exactly 4:00 p.m., the elevator doors opened and a man stepped out. Amelia recognized him immediately from the photos she'd found online the night before. Julian Royce was tall, with dark hair and sharp, chiseled features that made him look stern and unapproachable. He wore a perfectly tailored gray suit that probably cost more than 3 months of her rent. He scanned the lobby, and his eyes, a startling shade of gray, landed on her. For a fraction of a second, he seemed to freeze. Then he walked directly toward her, followed by the man she assumed was his assistant. "Ms. Brooks," Julian asked, his voice deeper and richer than she had expected. "Yes," she said, forcing a smile despite her racing heart. "Mr. Royce, I am so sorry about the mix-up. I was in a hurry, and the bags look identical." "It's fine," he interrupted, but not unkindly. His eyes were fixed on her face with an intensity that made her words trail off. "These things happen." An awkward silence fell between them. Amelia gestured to the suitcase beside her. "Well, here's your bag. Everything should be exactly as it was." "Thank you." He nodded to his assistant, who stepped forward to take the suitcase. "And I have yours." The assistant produced her familiar navy suitcase, setting it down beside her. "I hope nothing was damaged," Julian said, still watching her with that strange, unnerving intensity. "I'm sure it's fine," she replied, wondering why he was looking at her that way. Did she have something on her face? "Again, I'm really sorry for the trouble." "No trouble," he said. Then, unexpectedly, "Would you join me for coffee, to make up for the inconvenience I've caused you?" Amelia blinked in surprise. "The inconvenience you've caused me?" A slight, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. "You had to come all the way downtown to meet a stranger when you probably had better things to do today." She couldn't argue with that, though she was utterly puzzled by his request. Why would Julian Royce, Billionaire CEO, want to have coffee with her? Sure, she said. "Coffee would be nice." "Good." He turned to his assistant. "Marcus, take the bags up to the suite. Ms. Brooks and I will be in the lobby lounge." Marcus nodded and disappeared with both suitcases, leaving Amelia alone with Julian. "This way," he said, gesturing toward the elegant lounge area. As they walked, she caught a whiff of his cologne, expensive and subtle, nothing like her ex-fiancé's overpowering scent that had always given her a headache. They sat at a quiet table in the corner, and a server appeared almost instantly. "Just black coffee for me," Julian said. "Green tea with honey, please," Amelia ordered. When the server left, Julian leaned forward slightly. "So, Ms. Brooks—" "Amelia, please," she interrupted. "Ms. Brooks makes me feel like I'm in trouble." That slight smile appeared again. "Amelia, tell me about yourself." The directness of the question caught her off guard. "There's not much to tell. I own a small flower shop in Inman Park. I just got back from my first vacation in years." "Barbados," he said. Amelia tensed. "How did you know that—" Julian hesitated, looking almost embarrassed. "Your luggage tag had a Barbados sticker on it." "Oh, right." She relaxed slightly. "It was beautiful there. Peaceful. And the flower shop, petal and stem." Now she was definitely suspicious. "You looked through my things." It wasn't a question, but a statement. He answered anyway. "I saw the journal. I apologize. I was trying to figure out whose bag I had." Amelia should have been angry, but something in his expression stopped her. He didn't look like an arrogant CEO right now. He looked like someone who had found something unexpected and wasn't quite sure what to do with it. Their drinks arrived, giving her a moment to gather her thoughts. "Yes, I own petal and stem," she finally said, stirring honey into her tea. "It's small, but it's mine. I opened it 3 years ago." "And the expansion plans?" She looked up sharply. "You read my journal." "Just the page that was marked," he admitted. "I'm sorry, that was invasive." It was, she said, but she found herself answering anyway. I'm hoping to expand next year, add a small cafe section if I can get the financing. He took a sip of his coffee, his eyes never leaving her face. It's a good idea. Flowers and coffee complement each other. They do, she agreed, studying him curiously. But I doubt you asked me for coffee to discuss my business plans. No, he said simply. Your perfume, my perfume, jasmine and honey. It's unusual. Amelia felt a blush creep up her neck. It was my grandmother's recipe. She used to make it herself. After she died, I found someone who could recreate it for me. It's beautiful, he said quietly. Something in his voice made her meet his gaze directly for the first time. What she saw there surprised her. Not the cold calculation she'd expected, but something warmer, something almost vulnerable. Thank you, she said softly. They sat in silence for a moment, the busy hotel lobby fading into the background. I have a proposition for you, Julian said finally. Royce Enterprises is launching a new line of home products next month. We're looking for someone to consult on floral designs for our catalogs and displays. Amelia set down her teacup. And you're offering this to me, a stranger whose bag you accidentally took. I've seen your work, he said. The pressed flowers in your journal, the designs for your shop. You have talent. She should say no. This made no sense. And yet, I'd need to know more details, she said cautiously. Of course. Julian pulled out a business card and handed it to her. Think about it. Call me when you decide. Their fingers brushed as she took the card, and something like a faint electric current passed between them. She pulled her hand back quickly. Julian stood. Thank you for the coffee, Amelia Brooks, and for returning my suitcase. Thank you for returning mine, she replied, still thoroughly confused. As he walked away, she stared down at the business card in her hand. What had just happened? And why did she have the strange feeling that her life had just taken a sharp, unexpected turn? Outside the hotel, she opened her suitcase to check that everything was there. Her clothes, her journal, her photograph. And on top, carefully folded, was her peach scarf. She picked it up and held it to her nose. It smelled faintly, almost imperceptibly, of his cologne. 3 days passed before Amelia called the number on Julian's business card. 3 long days of telling herself this was all completely crazy. That a man like Julian Royce didn't just offer high-profile consulting jobs to strangers he met through a luggage mix-up. That there had to be some hidden catch, some angle she wasn't seeing. But curiosity, persistent and undeniable, finally won out. Sitting in the small, cluttered back office of her flower shop after closing time, surrounded by the sweet, earthy scent of the day's leftover blooms, she dialed the number. It rang twice before he answered himself. Julian Royce. His deep, resonant voice caught her off guard. She had fully expected a gatekeeping assistant to answer. Oh, hello. This is Amelia Brooks, from the luggage mix-up. There was a pause on the other end, a beat of silence that felt charged. Amelia, he said, and the way he spoke her name made her heart beat a little faster. I was beginning to think you weren't going to call. I've been busy with the shop, she said, twirling a loose strand of hair around her finger. And honestly, I wasn't sure if your offer was serious. I don't make offers I don't mean, he said simply. Have you decided? I'm interested, she admitted. But I'd need more information. What exactly would this consulting job involve? It's easier to show you than to explain over the phone. Are you free tomorrow afternoon? I could stop by your shop. Amelia glanced around her small store. It wasn't fancy or polished like the places someone like him undoubtedly frequented. but it was hers and she was proud of it. "Yes, I'm free after 3. The shop closes at 6. "I'll be there at 4, he said. "And Amelia?" "Yes." "Thank you for calling." After hanging up, she sat motionless, staring at her phone. Why did she feel like she had just agreed to something much bigger than a business meeting? The next day, Amelia found herself cleaning the already clean shop, rearranging displays that were perfectly fine, and fussing with her appearance more than she had in years. She changed her outfit twice before settling on a simple green dress that brought out the gold flecks in her brown eyes. At exactly 4 o'clock, the little bell above the door chimed. Julian Royce stepped into Petal and Stem, and the small, charming space suddenly seemed even smaller. He was dressed more casually than she'd seen him at the hotel, in dark jeans and a gray button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. Without the armor of a suit jacket and tie, he looked less like a formidable CEO and more like a man. A very handsome man who was currently scanning her shop with an intense, appreciative interest. "Welcome to Petal and Stem," she said, wiping her suddenly damp palms on her dress. His eyes found hers, and a small, genuine smile softened his features. "It's exactly as I imagined from your sketch." An unexpected warmth spread through her chest at the thought that he had spent time imagining her shop. "Thank you. It's small, but I've put everything I have into it." "It shows," he said. He moved around the space, his gaze taking in the vibrant displays of fresh flowers, the vintage cabinet she'd repurposed as a display case, the charming hand-painted signs. "You have a gift for creating spaces that feel like home." The way he said that last word, almost as if it were unfamiliar on his tongue, made Amelia curious. "Would you like something to drink?" "I have water tea." "Water is fine, thank you." She went to the small refrigerator behind the counter. When she turned around, he was studying a bouquet of wildflowers she'd put together that morning. "These aren't like the arrangements in the front window," he observed as she handed him the water. "No," she agreed. "Those are more traditional. These are what I call honest flowers." "Honest flowers?" Amelia smiled, relaxing a little as she talked about the things she loved most. "They're not perfect. They're a little wild, a little unexpected, but that's what makes them beautiful. At least that's what I think." Julian reached out and touched one of the delicate blooms with a surprising gentleness. "I agree." For a moment they stood in silence, the late afternoon sun streaming through the windows, casting a golden dust-mote-filled light across the shop. "So," Amelia finally said, breaking the spell, "about this consulting position." He set down his water bottle and pulled out his phone. "Royce Enterprises is launching a new home goods line next month. Candles, linens, decorative items. We want to incorporate floral elements in our marketing, but our current team is producing work that feels—" He paused, searching for the right word. "Artificial," Amelia suggested. His eyes met hers, and something passed between them, a spark of mutual understanding. "Exactly. I want something real, something that makes people feel something when they see it." He showed her photos of the current mock-ups, sleek, perfect, and utterly soulless arrangements. "They're technically good," she said diplomatically, "but they lack warmth. They have no heart." "That's what I've been trying to tell my marketing department," he said, putting away his phone. "I'd like you to redesign our floral elements for the campaign. Create arrangements that tell a story that feel honest, as you put it." Her mind was already racing with ideas, but caution held her back. "I don't have any experience with large corporate campaigns." "That's precisely why I want you," he said. "You haven't been trained to create what's expected. You create what feels right." The conviction in his voice was flattering, but still she hesitated. "I'd have to continue running my shop. I can't just drop everything. Of course, this would be part-time consulting. You'd work directly with me. No committees, no corporate red tape. Directly with you. That wasn't what she had expected. Don't you have more important things to do than oversee a floral design consultant? Something flickered in his eyes. Amusement, perhaps. I make time for things that matter. Before Amelia could process what that might mean, the bell above the door chimed again. A middle-aged woman entered, glancing curiously between Amelia and the handsome stranger. "Hello, Mrs. Patterson," Amelia greeted her regular customer. "Your weekly arrangement is ready." As Amelia helped Mrs. Patterson, she was acutely aware of Julian moving around her shop, examining everything with those sharp, observant eyes. When Mrs. Patterson left, he was standing by the small desk in the corner, looking at a framed photo. "Is this your grandmother?" he asked. Amelia joined him, surprised. "Yes. How did you know? You have the same smile." He set the frame down carefully. "She's the one who made the perfume?" "Yes. She taught me everything I know about flowers. She believed they speak a language all their own." Amelia touched the frame gently. "She died 3 years ago, just before I opened this place." "I'm sorry," he said quietly. He seemed about to say more, but instead he asked, "Have you decided about the consulting position?" Amelia took a deep breath. Every practical part of her brain was screaming that this was too strange, too sudden. But something else, something deeper, was pulling her toward this opportunity toward him. "Yes," she said. "I'll do it." The smile that spread across his face transformed him completely. For a moment, she glimpsed the man Julian Royce might be if he smiled more often. "Good," he said. "We can start next week. I'll have Marcus draw up a contract." "I have one condition," she said, surprising herself with her own boldness. He raised an eyebrow. "And that is, tell me why you really offered me this job. It wasn't just because you saw my pressed flowers." For a long moment, he was silent, his expression unreadable. Then he picked up his water bottle, took a sip, and set it down with deliberate slowness. "When I opened your suitcase," he finally said, his voice low, "I found something I didn't realize I had been looking for." "What was that?" His eyes met hers, direct and disarmingly honest. "A reminder that there are still things in this world that can surprise me, move me." He gestured around the small shop. "You've created something real here, Amelia. Something honest. That's a rare commodity in my world." The simple truth in his words took her breath away. "Thank you," she said softly. He nodded once, then glanced at his watch. "I should go. I have a dinner meeting." "Of course." She walked him to the door, suddenly aware of how much taller he was, how his presence filled her small shop in a way that should have been intimidating, but somehow wasn't. At the door, he turned to face her. "I'll have Marcus send you the details tomorrow." "Okay." He hesitated, then added, "The perfume, the jasmine and honey, do you wear it often?" The unexpected personal question made her blush. "Sometimes, when I want to remember her." He nodded, a slight, almost secret smile touching his lips. "It suits you." And then he was gone, leaving Amelia standing in her doorway, wondering what in the world had just happened and why she couldn't stop smiling. The following week passed in a blur. Amelia received a contract from Royce Enterprises that offered a consulting fee far more generous than she'd expected. She signed it after having her friend Lisa, who worked at a law firm, look it over. "This is legit," Lisa had said, sounding shocked. "But Amelia, how did you even meet Julian Royce? He's like seriously rich and powerful." "We just ran into each other," Amelia replied, unwilling to explain the bizarre story of the suitcase mix-up. Now, as she entered the sleek downtown building that housed Royce Enterprises' Atlanta offices, she felt a familiar flutter of nerves. The receptionist, however, greeted her warmly. "Ms. Brooks, Mr. Royce is expecting you. Please take the private elevator to the top floor." The elevator ride gave her just enough time to question her decision again. What was she doing here? She knew nothing about corporate marketing, and the way she'd been thinking about Julian since their meeting that was just asking for trouble. The doors opened directly into a large, airy office with spectacular floor-to-ceiling windows. Julian stood by the windows, his back to her, a phone to his ear. He turned at the sound of the elevator. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone, then ended the call. "Amelia, thank you for coming." "This is quite an office," she said, taking in the minimalist furniture and breathtaking view. "It serves its purpose," he said, gesturing to a large table covered with product samples. "These are the products for the new line. I thought you could get a feel for them before starting on the designs." For the next 2 hours, they worked side by side. He explained the concept behind each product. She offered suggestions for floral elements that would complement them. She was surprised by how easily they fell into a rhythm, how he listened to her ideas with genuine, focused interest. "You're not what I expected," she admitted as they took a short break. "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Someone more corporate, I guess. Less willing to listen to a florist's opinions." He leaned against the table, arms crossed. "And you're not what most people expect when they think of a successful business owner." "Because I'm not wearing designer clothes and barking orders into a phone." A smile touched his lips. "Because you care about the beauty of what you create, not just the profit it generates." Coming from anyone else, it might have sounded like a line, but he said it as a simple statement of fact. "Profit matters too," she pointed out. "My shop barely breaks even most months." "But that's not why you do it." "No," she admitted. "It's not." Their eyes met, and that strange, powerful connection she'd felt in her shop sparked again, stronger this time in the quiet of his office. He broke the moment first. "Are you hungry? We could order in some lunch." They ate sandwiches from a nearby deli at the massive conference table, talking about the project, but also about other things, books they'd read, places they wanted to visit, their different views of Atlanta. By the time they finished, it was late afternoon. "I should get back to the shop," Amelia said, gathering her notes. "I'll have a car take you," he offered. "That's not necessary. I can take the bus." "It's no trouble," he insisted with a gentle stubbornness she was beginning to recognize. As they waited for the elevator, he said, "I'd like to see your initial design concepts by next week, if possible." "I can do that," she said, trying to ignore the flutter in her stomach at the thought of seeing him again so soon. "Good," he said. "Perhaps you could present them here. Say Thursday at 4. Thursday works." The elevator arrived, and she stepped in. Just before the doors closed, he added his voice low, "Wear the jasmine perfume." Over the next week, Amelia poured herself into the project. Each night after closing her shop, she experimented with different arrangements, photographing them, making notes. During the day, she found herself looking up whenever the bell above the door chimed, half expecting, half hoping to see Julian walk in. He didn't. But on Tuesday, a delivery man arrived with a sleek new laptop. The attached note was simple. "For your designs. The software is already installed. Jay." She called him immediately. "You didn't need to do this." "The contract includes necessary equipment," he replied smoothly. "And I want to see your work exactly as you envision it, not limited by outdated technology." She wanted to argue, but couldn't deny her ancient computer had been a source of immense frustration. "Thank you. But I'm adding it to the project inventory. It goes back when we're done." "If you insist," he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. By Thursday, she had created 5 distinct floral concepts. She dressed carefully for the presentation, choosing a blue dress, and after a moment's hesitation, dabbing her grandmother's perfume on her wrists. When the elevator doors opened, she was surprised to find not just Julian, but 3 other people in his office, the marketing team. "Amelia," Julian greeted her all business in a perfectly tailored dark suit. "I'd like you to meet the team." She shook hands, trying not to show her nervousness. This wasn't what she'd expected. "Mr. Royce has told us about your unique approach," said the woman Victoria. "We're eager to see your concepts." Amelia launched into her presentation, her confidence growing as she talked about her work. When she finished, there was a moment of silence. "It's certainly different," said one of the men. "It's exactly what we need," Julian said firmly, his voice cutting off any further debate. "Fresh, authentic, memorable." The team discussed the concepts, and by the end, it was clear that Julian's opinion was the only one that truly mattered. He was firmly in her corner. After the team left, he closed the door. The CEO mask slipped away. "You did well," he said. "I knew they would try to water down your ideas." "Thank you for defending them," she said, gathering her materials. "I wasn't expecting an audience." "I apologize. Victoria insisted on seeing the concepts firsthand." He moved closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne. He took a slow, deep breath, and she knew he was smelling her perfume. The thought sent a shiver down her spine. "You're wearing it," he said quietly. "You asked me to." His eyes darkened. "I did." For a long moment they stood there, the air between them charged. Then he stepped back. "Have dinner with me tomorrow night," he said. It wasn't a question. "Why?" she asked, needing to understand. "Because I want to spend time with you away from work," he said, his gaze intense. She should say no. This was a bad idea. But looking at the unexpected uncertainty in his expression, she heard herself say, "Okay, just dinner." The smile that lit up his face was worth any risk. Julian sent a car for her the next evening. The driver delivered her to an address in Buckhead, one of Atlanta's most exclusive neighborhoods. Instead of a restaurant, however, the car stopped outside a stunning modern house of glass and steel perched on a hillside. "There must be some mistake," Amelia told the driver, her heart sinking. "No mistake, ma'am. Mr. Royce is expecting you." With a growing sense of unease, Amelia approached the imposing front door. It opened before she could knock, revealing Julian dressed not in a suit, but in dark jeans and a simple white shirt. "You look beautiful," he said, his eyes taking in her red dress, the nicest one she owned. "You said dinner," she replied, not moving from the doorway. "I thought you meant at a restaurant." Understanding dawned on his face. "I should have been clearer. I thought you might be more comfortable here, away from prying eyes and cameras." He stepped back, leaving the doorway open. "But we can go to a restaurant if you prefer." She hesitated. The truth was, she was curious about his world, his life, and the thought of a quiet evening, just the two of them, was undeniably appealing. "No," she decided, stepping inside. "This is fine. But next time be more specific." "Next time," he repeated, a slow smile playing at his lips. "I like the sound of that." The interior of the house was just as impressive as the exterior, with massive windows overlooking the glittering city lights. But what surprised Amelia most was how personal it felt. There was art on the walls, books on the shelves, and a kitchen that looked like it was actually used. "This isn't what I expected," she admitted. "What did you expect?" "Something more sterile." "Less lived in," she confessed. He led her to a terrace where a table was set for dinner, candles flickering in the evening breeze. "Did you cook?" she asked, genuinely surprised. "I did," he said, pulling out a chair for her. "Don't look so surprised. I wasn't always a CEO with a personal staff." Over a dinner of perfectly cooked salmon and roasted vegetables, they talked. Really talked. He told her about growing up in a small town in Massachusetts, working his way through college, and starting his company from nothing. She shared stories of her childhood in rural Georgia, her grandmother's flower garden, and her dreams for her shop. "Why flowers?" he asked as they lingered over a simple chocolate cake he had baked himself. "They're honest," she said. "They bloom, they fade, they return again. There's a rhythm to them. My grandmother used to say that flowers speak when words fail." "Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman," he said. "She was. Your turn. Why build a lifestyle empire? What drives you?" He was quiet for a moment. "Initially, proving I could. Making something from nothing." He set his wine glass down. "Now, I'm not so sure anymore." The admission surprised her. "Lately," he confessed, his eyes meeting hers across the table, "I've been wondering if I've been focusing on the wrong things." "Like what?" "Like creating products people want versus creating things that actually matter." He smiled ruefully. "That probably sounds ridiculous coming from me." "No," she said softly. "It sounds human." Something shifted in his expression, then a vulnerability she hadn't seen before. As the evening wound down, he walked her to the waiting car. At the door, he took her hand, his thumb brushing lightly over her knuckles. He didn't kiss her lips. Instead, he lifted her hand and pressed a gentle, lingering kiss to her palm. "Good night, Amelia Brooks." The unexpected, intimate gesture left her breathless. "Good night, Julian." As the car pulled away, she leaned back against the seat, her palm still tingling where his lips had touched. She was falling for him, she realized with a terrifying clarity. Falling for a man who lived in a completely different universe than hers. What was she getting herself into? Over the next 2 weeks, her life fell into a new, dizzying pattern. Days were spent at her flower shop, evenings were dedicated to the Royce Enterprises project, and the spaces in between were filled with Julian. They had dinner 3 times that week, exploring quiet restaurants where they could talk without interruption. They walked through Piedmont Park one Sunday afternoon, coffee cups in hand. "You're different when you're not at the office," she told him. "Different how? More relaxed, more real." "Being CEO requires a certain persona," he admitted. "And with me, is that a persona too?" He stopped walking and turned to face her. "No, Amelia, not with you." That sincerity was what kept drawing her in, even as his world constantly intruded. A phone call about the Tokyo office cut their walk short. But the next day, he showed up at a garden supply store to help her buy potting soil and groceries, dressed in jeans and a baseball cap, looking endearingly out of place. He insisted on cooking dinner at her apartment that night. "It's not much," she said, feeling self-conscious as he stepped into her small, cozy space. He looked around at the mismatched furniture, the plants on every windowsill, the walls covered in her framed botanical prints. "It's perfect," he said, and the wonder in his voice was genuine. "It feels like you." While he cooked a simple pasta dish that smelled amazing, the domesticity of the scene struck her. This powerful man's sleeves rolled up stirring sauce in her tiny kitchen looked more at home than she'd ever seen him. Afterward, they moved to her small sofa, wine glasses in hand. He noticed the photo of her and her grandmother. They talked for hours, and the space between them grew smaller and smaller until he was cupping her cheek, his eyes searching hers. "For the first time in years," he said, his voice a low confession, I feel awake. The success, the money, none of it matters if you can't feel anything. And you, Amelia Brooks, you make me feel something." He leaned in slowly and kissed her. It was gentle at first, a question. When she answered by sliding her fingers into his hair, it deepened, becoming more urgent and passionate. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. "That," he whispered, "that's what I feel." The next morning she woke with a smile. He had left late the night before, a perfect gentleman whispering, "I want to do this right. You're not a passing interest, Amelia." But her happiness was short-lived. A car picked her up for a meeting at his office, and she was escorted up by Victoria from the marketing team. "Julian's in New York today," Victoria said casually. "Quarterly board meeting. Didn't he tell you?" Her stomach dropped. No, he hadn't. The meeting was a blur. Julian appeared on a large video screen, all business greeting her as Ms. Brooks, with a professional coolness that felt like a slap. He didn't meet her eyes, gave no hint of the intimacy they had shared just hours before. She left the meeting feeling hurt, confused, and foolish. 2 days of silence followed. Amelia threw herself into her work, trying to convince herself it didn't matter. Her friend Lisa stopped by the shop and immediately sensed something was wrong. "Okay, spill," she demanded. "It's just man troubles." Amelia sighed, refusing to name him. "He didn't do anything. That's the problem. He just disappeared." "The disappearing act." Lisa nodded knowingly. Classic jerk move. Just then, a delivery man entered with a large flat box for Amelia. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was a beautiful scarf in a soft shade of blue that matched her eyes. Beneath it, a handwritten note. "Amelia, I'm sorry. Board meetings are scheduled months in advance, but that's no excuse. I should have told you. I've been in back-to-back meetings, but that's no excuse either. I miss you. I miss your scent. I'll be back Friday. Will you have dinner with me? Julian." "Holy," Lisa whispered, reading over her shoulder. "Julian, as in Julian Royce. That's your mystery man." On Friday evening, she met him at a small, intimate restaurant. He looked tired, but his face lit up when he saw her. "You're wearing the scarf," he said. "It matches my eyes," she replied, her voice cool. "I deserve that," he said. "I handled things badly. I'm not good at this." He explained that his last relationship had been transactional, about careers, not connection. "What I feel with you is new for me," he confessed. "It scares me a little." His honesty disarmed her. "It scares me too." He then admitted that he'd had Marcus do a basic background check on her after the Suitcase mix-up, and knew about her broken engagement to Mark. The admission stung, but he explained he was just trying to understand her. She in turn told him the painful truth. "He told me I wasn't ambitious enough, that I was content to just sell flowers." "He's an idiot," Julian said flatly. The simple, fierce defense of her made her laugh, breaking the tension. He then told her about the campaign launch in New York. "I'd like you to come with me," he said, "because you're the creative force behind it, and because I don't want to be away from you again." She agreed. That night she went home with him. In the safety and darkness of his bedroom, she felt a sense of rightness, of belonging she'd never experienced before. "You smell like home," he whispered against her neck. "Like everything I've been searching for." She finally felt safe enough to ask the question that haunted her. "Why me, Julian?" "Because," he said, his arms tightening around her, "none of them see me. They see the CEO, the billionaire. You see me, the real me." The trip to New York was an immersion into his world. The private jet, the penthouse overlooking Central Park, the whirlwind of meetings and media events. He was protective, staying by her side, shielding her from prying questions and condescending investors. But the reality of his life was stark. The constant calls, the lack of privacy, the public scrutiny. After the successful launch event, she found an article online, Billionaire CEO's Mystery Woman Identified. The comments were cruel, calling her a gold digger, dissecting her appearance. It made her feel sick. That night, for the first time, they slept with a small, cold space between them. The next day, their last in the city, she knew she had to make a decision. They walked through Central Park in a tense silence. "I've been thinking," she said, stopping on a quiet path, "and I'm scared. Your world is so different from mine." She saw the hope flicker and die in his eyes, but she continued. "But then I think about how you see me, really see me. And I think maybe the differences don't matter as much as what we've found together. I want to try." The smile that broke across his face was like the sun emerging from behind the clouds. He pulled her into his arms. "I love you, Amelia Brooks," he whispered against her hair. "I think I've loved you since I opened that suitcase and breathed in your scent." "I love you too, Julian," she cried, joy and relief washing over her. That night as they packed, he gave her a gift, a small glass bottle identical to her grandmother's, filled with the golden jasmine and honey perfume. "I had it analyzed and recreated," he explained. "It's the scent of the woman I love, the scent that led me to you." 3 months later, Amelia stood in her newly expanded flower shop. She'd added the cafe, financing it herself with a small business loan. He had understood why it was important for her to do it on her own. The bell above the door chimed, and Julian walked in, looking relaxed and happy. "Ready for our trip?" he asked, kissing her. They were leaving for Barbados that afternoon, a full-circle journey back to where her new life had begun. "I have something for you," he said, leading her outside. Next to his car was a brand new navy blue suitcase. "I thought it was time for an upgrade, with some better memories." "The old one brought me to you," she smiled. "I'm kind of attached to it." "Keep it for sentimental reasons," he suggested, "but use this one for our trip." Later on the tarmac, as they prepared to board his jet, she opened the new suitcase. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was her peach scarf, and beneath it, a small velvet box. Her heart pounded as she opened it to reveal a simple, elegant diamond ring. She turned to find him down on one knee. "Amelia Brooks," he said, his voice steady, his eyes full of love. "You changed my life the day I opened that suitcase. You woke me up. You showed me what really matters. Will you marry me?" Tears blurred her vision as she nodded. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I will." As he slid the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her, she thought of her grandmother. Flowers speak when words fail, but sometimes a scent spoke even louder. The scent of jasmine and honey would always be the beginning of their story, the fragrance that had led a lost billionaire home.